You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Just win, baby.
Just win,
That's how we start the... that's not what the Mariners do. They're in more of a, let's mostly lose, but every once in a while explode for 10 runs and win a game. That's the mode that they're in.
Yeah, that checks out.
Welcome to The Scrimmage. I'm Justin Domashevitz. Trusty producer Andrew Gross here with us as well. My co-host, Daniel Hargrove, is no longer with us today. He's somewhere. Actually, I don't know where he is, but we do have... If you're watching on the video, not only are you seeing a puppy sleeping in the background, but you can see the stand-in for Daniel.
Daniel has actually been turned into a teddy bear, which is interesting. I don't think ironic, but it is interesting since he once turned me into a teddy bear.
Interesting. So how did you...
a Hargrove Christmas family video.
I didn't realize... Okay, first off, I want more information on that. First off, I didn't realize this was actually Daniel sitting across from me.
Yes, that's Daniel.
So he can't talk, obviously, because he's a plush teddy bear with a Coug coat jacket on.
Yes.
But can he hear me and understand me?
I don't know. That's a good... You'll have to ask him.
Well, you used to be a teddy bear.
We'll have to ask him later when he turns back into it. I have no memory of being a teddy bear. I only know that it happened because there's video of it on YouTube.
What? Okay,
have you not watched the Hargrove family Christmas specials?
I have.
You should watch them.
I've seen some filmed outdoors.
Something else.
There's one in particular I know that I watched, but I don't remember any people getting turned into teddy bears in the ones.
You must have missed that one.
So what was the story? What was
I
the
don't
teddy
know.
bear?
I was a teddy bear. I think I came out of the bathroom and surprised the evil witch and got turned into a teddy bear. But that's my vague. I haven't watched this in a long time.
Just how would one find this video? Like you go to.
You'll need to ask Daniel about that.
Okay.
I
can't talk. He's a teddy bear.
It's probably
now.
on Jules' YouTube.
If you're one of our listeners, I'm going to try to find these videos and so we can share them to our socials and everyone can enjoy them together. Because I do the Hargrove Christmas videos are pretty infamous in our circles. Like, people know.
Are they infamous or famous?
Well, like, infamous means, like, is it always in a bad way, or is it just polarizing?
I think infamous is always negative.
I thought infamous meant more like, yeah, you're right.
Polarizing would be negative in some, like...
True.
Yeah.
Well,
like, some people think it's negative if it's polarizing.
Exactly.
So, I would say...
Wouldn't you think that some people think that those are negative?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, the listeners don't know, but hopefully soon they can find out. I have to say, because I was asked to, shout out Allie, my daughter. She said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to watch your show today. You should mention my name."
Well, we have Pax in the background for her.
So, Allie, you can see Daniel's been turned into a stuffed teddy bear. Pax is sleeping in the background. I got to spend a wonderful day with my daughter, just the two of us yesterday. We went to see a movie, went out to lunch, did some shopping together. She's really great, and
awesome.
I love her a lot. So I think that'll probably do it for our show today. Should we talk about more stuff?
Well, did any local sports happen?
You know what? Let's go ahead and do...
Do you want music?
Yeah, let's hit it. Well, that's
not
not the right
music.
Local sports roundup, as Daniel would say. After dominating the Northwest Regional Tournament in June, Elma's Pony League baseball team traveled to West Covina, California at the beginning of August to play in the West Region Tournament. The Elma West Region opener, in Elma's West Region opener, hold on, turn the music off. Okay,
sorry.
Hold on. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Let me take a deep breath. I did a really bad job reading that. Okay, so let's get things going with the local sports roundup. Dang it!
I still screwed it up.
After dominating the Northwest Regional Tournament in June, Elma's Pony League baseball team traveled to West Covina, California at the beginning of August to play in the West Region Tournament. In Elma's West Region opener, a massive comeback fell just short in a 13-12 loss to Santa Cruz, California. After trailing 10-1 in the game, Elma scored 11 runs in the 5th and 6th innings. Jackson Busey hit a grand slam, and Troy Roop hit a 3-run triple as part of the comeback effort. Elma was eliminated from the tourney the next day with a 15-0 loss to Hawaii. And unfortunately, that's our entire local sports roundup. It's just that one story, and I couldn't even get all the way through it without having to start over. It's been a rough go here to start things off.
It's tough going out without Daniel. Daniel normally, keeps us on the rails.
He's here, though.
He's so professional and
he's just being really quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel on the rails, professional. Those are definitely focused, I think is the other word I would use.
Focused.
Yeah.
So this could be a fun one.
I definitely have not had to suggest that no Mariners game can be played on any screen in the house while we're recording the podcast because one of us gets distracted by every little thing that happens. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to I guess we'll call this the Spivey Athlete of the Week segment because we don't have much that really happened. Even this Elma Pony League. We reported on this team when they won the Northwest Region tournament, and then they went to, it was actually like August 1st through 4th that they went to that West Regional and lost, and we just hadn't had it in our roundup yet. So I wanted to close the loop on the Little League / non-high school varsity baseball season by saying what happened there. But now we're kind of looking forward because we have football season coming up. I know there are other sports seasons in the fall, and I apologize to people who play in those other sports because football tends to totally dominate things.
What other sports are there?
Well, girls soccer is a fall sport.
Oh, that's right. They do opposite seasons, don't they?
Yeah, and volleyball is a fall sport, and then boys golf plays in the fall.
Oh, okay.
That might be it. Yeah. So there are other sports going on, and I'm sure that as we go through, we will talk about all of them.
Is basketball a winter sport then?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, boys and girls basketball in the winter, wrestling in the winter as well.
I should know these things.
Yeah,
There's really no excuse for me not knowing those.
You know what? It wasn't until I started actually covering these sports at the newspaper before any of that really registered to me at all. So it's really not that weird.
It's to be fair, they're all things that I'm like, it makes sense to me when you say it, but if I had to categorize all of them, I would have got like half of them wrong because I never care what season it is.
Oh, that would have been a fun Stump Andrew for today.
Yeah, sorry.
I have something else that I think you're going to like cooked up. But
so these are football players to watch?
Yeah, so my thought was we did this a little bit last year, but we didn't like go through the major teams and talk about people that we know. And I also know that when Daniel's back next week, we'll be previewing the Jamboree basically because we have one more week of show, and then there's Labor Day weekend, which kicks off with the Jamboree, the football Jamboree on Friday night. You guys are going to be gone that weekend, so we won't have a show on Labor Day weekend in its traditional sense, but my goal is to go to the Jamboree with our new equipment and get audio, talk to players, talk to coaches, and then put that together.
That'd be really cool.
Into a podcast to help preview football season. But for now, I know for this weekend, for next week, I want to try to talk about some of the things we do know about these teams. There's been a big shakeup. The league's realigned.
There's a team from each high school.
There's a team from each high school. and
things we know.
There is we cover the B schools also, like North Beach, Ocasta, Tahola. Like we do cover these, and then in Pacific County you have PL Willapa Valley, Raymond South Bend, but we don't always know as much about those teams until we get into the season. So I think what I want to do is focus on the 4 main local teams that we have here with Aberdeen, Hoquiam, Monty, and Elma, and then we'll kind of expand on that over the next few weeks and start talking about some of these other teams. So I know every team is going to have a really different dynamic from last year. Aberdeen has almost no seniors. Like, I know they have Legend Vesey. I don't even know for sure if they have any seniors besides that. They might have a couple, but their team was pretty much all made up of seniors and sophomores last year. So they're going to have either some guys who are juniors and below or have very little varsity experience on this team. I know there's a couple guys that names that definitely stood out from what we saw from them last year. One is Micah Schroeder and the other is Adonis Hammonds. Micah, more of a guy. They do things, they'll do some creative things to get these guys involved in both running and passing. Micah mostly coming out of the backfield, and Adonis Hammonds mostly catching passes. But those are two skill players for Aberdeen that I think definitely have a big opportunity to have a big impact. They're both really fast. If you watched track at all during the spring, you saw Micah Schroeder out there. The kid can fly. He won I believe he won the 100 meters at the all-county meet. I don't remember what his time was, but I know Micah Schroeder's really fast. He's also, like, for a guy who's that fast, he's tall and big. He's trim, but he has a really thick frame, and I think we'll see a lot from him this year. For Hoquiam,
what did you say? What position they played?
Yeah, I
do
think.
Do we know what they'll be playing?
I think of Micah more as a running back and Adonis more as a receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Micah also catching passes and stuff as well. But yeah, that's and again, like, when the jamboree happens. Actually, I wonder if Aberdeen will be there. They've been participating in different jamborees the last couple of years, but
oh yeah, they've been trying to get into jamborees with bigger schools.
Well, I think they went to the SPSL, like Ording and Ording hosted, I think, the last couple of years, and they were there. So yeah, so they've been at that jamboree. But I'm hoping that when I get to see some of these teams at the jamboree, might get a little bit more of an idea of who's playing where, because every coach of all these teams is going to be putting a puzzle together. And just because a guy played a certain position last year doesn't mean they're going to play that same position this year either. But Micah Schroeder, Adonis Hammonds for Aberdeen, two guys I definitely expect to see the ball in their hands. Moving on to Hoquiam, and it is tough to talk about Hoquiam football right now because it has been a big struggle for the last few years. Also, Xander Jump, no question in my mind, was their best player last year. When they had any amount of success, it was usually because Xander did something great. And Xander graduated. So they're going to have to be getting some other guys moving up and filling in his impact. Xander mostly played quarterback, but I think, if they had somebody else to plug in at quarterback, maybe that was ready, maybe they would have played Xander at receiver and given him more opportunities to get the ball out in space. But there's another player who played some quarterback for Hoquiam last year as well when they wanted to move Xander to receiver, and that was Joey Bozich. So I don't assume that he's going to be the starting quarterback, but I think there's a good chance of that. And regardless, I think he'll be an important part of whatever Hoquiam's able to accomplish as well. There's also a sophomore named Ethan Byron, who I have heard is very athletic. This is one that there's a couple kids here that I don't recall specifically seeing myself, but I have been talking to other people who know these teams a little bit better than I do and kind of getting an idea. And that was a name that was brought up to me, sophomore, that may be having an impact for Hoquiam, and Ethan Byron. And then Giovanni Koth is another one. He played wide receiver a little bit last year. I remember him. I remember seeing him out there. And he wears number 1, in case anybody might remember him being out there playing wide receiver for Hoquiam. So can Joey Bozich, Ethan Byron, and Giovanni Koth do something to help get Hoquiam on the right track? I would hope so. And hoping also that they're getting participation numbers up and having some good players in the pipeline. For Elma, this is interesting because I actually thought that Ethan Camus had graduated. Andrew, do you remember us talking about Ethan Camus?
I think so.
Because Daniel Hargrove was the president of the Ethan Camus fan club.
Right.
Because a couple years ago, was it last year or 2 years ago? He covered the game that Hoquiam played Elma.
Of a lot of fan clubs.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Puts on a lot of work there.
So we've seen Ethan Camus just totally go off like he did in that game against Hoquiam a couple years ago. And then Isaac McGaffey for Elma, which preseason last year I remember watching at the Jamboree, and I didn't really know who Isaac was, but I remember watching at the Jamboree and thinking, all right, well, here's a kid, and I think he was a sophomore last year. I was like, I'm not sure. I know who, Carter Studer is, and I know who a couple of their main players are, but this kid athletically really stands out, and that was Isaac McGaffey. And then he ended up playing some receiver, playing some quarterback for Elma last year, and I assume that he's going to be their quarterback, their starting quarterback going into the season. It'll be a different look because their previous quarterback, Carter Studer, was much more known for arm strength. He was the guy, he wasn't quite as mobile, but he had a cannon for an arm, could really get the ball down the field. And I think McGaffey, while he does have a good arm, is really mobile, and you might see them in Elma trying to get some stuff with him on the move. The aforementioned Ethan Camus, who I think actually is a receiver, but he might be a running back. I'm not sure. I just remember that he had a ton of receiving yards in that one game. And then Traden Carter I threw on there because I don't even remember if Traden played offense for Elma, but I do remember from watching him play against Monty last year that the kid is an absolute battering ram. Like, he plays safety, and there was a video that I had put up on our social medias about a hit that he put on Gabe Bodwell, who was the monstrous fullback from Monty who won league MVP. And there's one play where Gabe scores a touchdown, but Traden punishes him in the end zone right as he's crossing the line. And I'm excited to see, Traden's a big hitter. He's aggressive. He's really strong. I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do for Elma. And that leads us to Monty, which...
It's fun to have a really good player in a defensive secondary.
It
in
really
high school.
is.
Like, it's, that makes a defense really fun to watch.
Well, some of these guys that we discover them because they end up playing safety or corner as like a sophomore or something, and it's the first time they'll end up on our radar. Like, I think Kylan Touch for Aberdeen was one of these guys. I don't necessarily remember him as a big hitter, but I do remember him being in the defensive backfield and Daniel telling me, like, hey, this kid's young, but he's really good. And then he ended up being one of the best high school football players we've seen for the Bobcats. And I think Logan Truax was another one that when I go, this is going back a little far, it's going to make me sound old, but Logan Truax for Monty back in 2014 or so was one where he was out there playing in the defensive backfield as a young guy.
Right.
And breaking in. So yeah, I think it is interesting. And Traden's not he was a junior last year, so it's not like he was a freshman out there. But he wasn't on my radar in football at all. I didn't even know if he played or if it was his first year. All I know is Traden Carter I knew from basketball. He's an excellent basketball player. And then he gets out there on a football field, and most of the time you think, oh, this guy's been a basketball player. And he gets out on the football field, and you don't think he's going to rock people. And then his whole game was just so physical, which is really fun to watch. So I'm excited to see that. And it leads us to Monty, where I think I'll just go with the disclaimer. You never know. All these teams are going to be different from last year. All these teams lost key players, and they're going to be trying to replace them with other guys. I do think of these four, Monty should be the best team. We've seen some recent success from Aberdeen, but a lot of that success has come with the last three groups of seniors, and those guys are all gone now, so they're kind of in a younger mode. And I think of these teams, Monty's going to be returning the most experience and the most talent, and I think they're probably the favorites to win the 1A Evergreen League, which will now be welcoming in Rochester as a part of it and saying goodbye to Eatonville. So, yeah, I do think probably I could come up with more names for Monty than I could from the other teams. That's partly because a lot of these guys have experience, partly because one player that's going to be on this team was a very good player who transferred from one of the other schools. And it's partly because I just paid more attention to this team because it was my son's team last year. So I would lead off with probably my top two being Mason Rasmussen and Gabe Pahala. Mason plays receiver, and he plays one of the hybrid linebacker corner positions. Mason is big, strong, and super fast. He ran the second fastest 40-yard dash on the team last year. and he can really move. I remember, Andrew, you might remember this too. When Monty played Aberdeen last year, we talked about we previewed the game on our show, and I told Daniel, hey, don't sleep on the speed of Mason Rasmussen. Mason went out, had a monster game against Aberdeen, caught this little tunnel screen, took it like 70 yards for a touchdown. He caught another touchdown on a bomb. And then Daniel got back on the show the next week and was like, you told me not to sleep on the speed of Mason Rasmussen. And what I did was I got myself a little pillow and I curled up under a blanket and I slept on the speed of Mason Rasmussen. And he proved us wrong. Mason is going to be a huge part, both offensively and defensively, of what Monty can do. Gabe Pahala, middle linebacker on the defense. He actually led the team in tackles last year as a junior.
It's good when a middle linebacker does that.
Yes, but there was a lot of really good players, including the defensive league MVP was also a linebacker on that team, and Gabe still led the team in tackles, and now returning to his starting spot at middle linebacker. I also expect to see him play some fullback, most likely, at some point.
Monty runs for do they run 4 or 3
linebackers?
So how do you guys do that?
So technically, I think they would tell you they run 5.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So it's
3
like
interior linebackers.
3 interior linebackers.
Okay.
So just like a standard Sam, Will, Mac.
Yeah.
And then they have the Blood and Rover, which play up on the line and outside,
right.
But they pretty much
which
turn
makes
into
sense because in high school,
yeah. And then when teams go spread,
flexible.
Those linebackers pretty much turn into corners.
DBs, yeah.
So
safeties probably.
Exactly. So you really have to they have to really make sure that those Blood Rover spots have fast guys who can keep up with receivers as well. So so Gabe Pahala, really sound tackler, excellent defensive player. I'd say if the Monty defense proves to be the best defense in the league, he would probably be my front runner for defensive league MVP this year. I think he's going to be excellent. Then you have Torrin Kreitz, started both ways as a sophomore last year, and now is coming back as a junior, and he'll play the Z.
Sophomore starting both ways is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't remember if he definitely started on defense all season, and I think he started on offense all season, but there might have been a beginning part where he mixed in at Z, but he played a lot, and I think they're going to be looking to get the ball in his hands a lot. He's tall, long, and really explosive and fast. So that's another guy that I think will be a big impact. And then I would also throw in Marcus Hale. This is a transfer from Aberdeen. He was a good player in Aberdeen. I think he got at least somewhat lost in the shuffle sometimes because they had several ball carriers, did the Bobcats, and he was capable of more than what he ended up being asked to do. Not because anybody did something wrong, but just because they had multiple guys to get the ball to. And I think seeing how they fit him in will be really interesting because the backfield is crowded. He can also play tight end. So I'd be curious to see what the coaches decide to do with him. But I do know he'll play linebacker on defense. He's an excellent defensive player, and he will be involved in some way getting the ball in his hands. And then the last one, which this is going to be the most fun thing for me to see what Monty does with Felix Romero, because if you paid attention to the Monty football team last year, Felix played defensively. He played outside linebacker. And, did a really nice job on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, he played some quarterback, but wildcat quarterback. He really didn't throw very much, and he was sharing the backfield snaps with Tyson Perry, and so much of the time they just had Felix run, and he really proved how dangerous he can be with the ball in his hands because he's really shifty, and he's super strong, and really hard to bring down. So I'll be curious to see what they do with him. Are they going to have him play quarterback? Are they going to have him split snaps with Tyson again and have him play a wildcat style? Are they going to have him play some halfback, maybe? I mean, they have Tarek Gunter there. They still have Thomas Flink. They have other guys who have played halfback before, but that's definitely, if they need to get the ball into Felix's hands, it's gonna be really interesting to see how they get all these different guys the ball on that Montesano team. So the hard part here is trying to figure out. We're gonna have basically 3 weeks of. Well, I guess we have 2 weeks of players to watch and then 1 week of football jamboree. So we have to figure out which of these guys we want to highlight as players to watch for football season.
I just realized I was nodding along, which is excellent radio.
Yeah. Well, it helped me, helped boost my confidence that you agreed with what I was saying. Do you have an inclination on which direction you would go, Andrew, on players to watch for football season?
Which direction I would go?
So I guess it's even so much as not picking players at the moment, but trying to figure out how we structure it. Like, do we do a week where we say, here's the players to watch for Aberdeen, here's the players to watch for Monty? Yeah. Do we do one where it's like, here's the players to watch for Aberdeen and Hoquiam?
And then Monty, West County and East County? That might make sense.
Yeah. And then we just pick
Daniel's
like
here for them.
Well, he's not going to be here for this week's. So yeah, because that's the hard part to me is I think
this week we could do Monty Elma.
Yeah, we could.
And next week we could do Aberdeen Hoquiam.
But it needs,
hopefully with a little bit of input from someone from that part of the county.
That would be nice. Also, Daniel, because he does broadcasting, he's watched the other teams more than I have. I pretty much watched my son was a senior last year, so I watched all these teams 1 week when they played Monty.
Impartial.
I'm so excited actually at the prospect of going to watch other teams this year. I'm still going to watch most of the time when Monty's at home, but see, this is my football schedule. I put it up on I pulled up all the games for the year, and I know opening weekend I'm going to La Center at Monty. The 13th, that's week 2. That's a tough one because all 4 of those teams are out of town and they're all in places I'm not traveling to. So
that's a date night.
Yeah. Well,
Take Angel out for a nice dinner.
Yeah, it's football season. We don't do that during football season. But it's either go to Raymond South Bend, which I'm interested in.
Okay, yeah, if they're going to be home, sure. Yeah.
But it's hard to drive an hour or 40 minutes or depending on which place they're going. And then the other option is just sit at home and watch live streams of different games from my couch. So I might do that on week 2. Week 3 is interesting because not only do you have Rochester at Aberdeen, which I think would be a really good, fun game to go to, but Squim is in Elma. And then this is also the week that Raymond South Bend is at Hoquiam, which is huge. Like, you almost never see the 2B Pacific County teams play against one of our 4 main Grays Harbor teams. It just doesn't happen. So I thought that was really cool, and I'm really interested in seeing that one.
Do we know, have we heard anything about the radio coverage?
I don't think the decision has been made yet. As far as I know, nobody has told me there are no broadcasts anymore.
Gotcha.
I know.
Okay.
And for the uninitiated, if you don't know, there was huge shakeup at Grays Harbor Radio. Couple of people laid off, and I'm not assuming that means they're not going to broadcast high school football games anymore. I just don't know.
Yeah,
and I know that
it just raises the question of what all are they cutting?
Right. Exactly. So, but the radio, you want to see the schedule. The schedule is up. They have their broadcast schedule up.
Okay, they have a broadcast schedule.
But it was it's been up for weeks now. So
okay. They haven't taken it down.
No, as far as I know.
Okay. And I feel like since Daniel's one of the broadcasters that will be involved in that, we will be early to know.
Yeah. And then Hoquiam, week 4, we have Hoquiam at Aberdeen. So Myrtle Street rivalry game at Stewart Field. I will definitely be there. And just so you know, I will be missing Napavine at Montesano to go to that Hoquiam Aberdeen game, which, that's a huge... Monty kind of has a standing policy that we don't play 2B teams. We don't play B schools. I think partly because they want to...
It's kind of a no-win.
It's a no-win, right?
Yeah.
They want to be challenged, but also,
if you lose, it's extra bad. If you win, everybody writes it off.
And because, and also if you're like a top tier 1A team, which, Monty's kind of like either top 10 or borderline top 10 pretty much every year. If you're one of the top 1A teams, most of the B schools are not going to compete with you very well, and you want to have someone who's competitive.
Yeah.
But Napavine has like really ascended to becoming such a dominant program that's a huge game for Monty to play against Napavine. And then after that we have Rochester at Elma. Pumped for that one too. Being able to watch a game at Davis Field. Hoquiam at Monty on the 11th of October. Tenino at Hoquiam on the 18th, which I'm not traveling to Tenino ever unless I have to. So I'll watch Tenino when they're in one of our local towns.
And since your son won't be traveling there,
exactly,
you don't have to.
Exactly. And then we have we'll see how the season plays out, but quite possibly the game of the year in week 9, where Nooksack is at Monty.
Okay.
And Nooksack has been one of the top 5-ish programs every year for the last several years. They've been really good. And Monty's big criticism last year was, hey, your schedule sucked. So yeah, you went undefeated and you kicked the crap out of everybody, but your schedule sucked.
But you never played Nooksack.
Which was true. And again, I would totally let the schedule makers off the hook because the previous year they played the exact same schedule and it was hard. And then the very next year they played the exact same schedule and everybody else got worse. But Monty went really hard in scheduling a tough schedule this year in the non-league. So
interesting. So it is there. That's a big win, big lose scenario. Right? Like,
honestly,
if they could easily lose several out of league games.
Yes.
But if they can win those games, they'll be very highly ranked.
Monty could lose 2 or 3 games this year and still be good.
Okay.
Because they're playing La Center, they're opening with La Center and they get to host, and they've got a really good history against La Center, but that's been a very good program for the last several years.
Yeah.
They also have Napavine, massive game. Then they also have the Nooksack game, massive game. So like they could lose 2 of those games, and that wouldn't make them a bad team at all. And that's not even mentioning any of the tests that they might get in league. Like Rochester coming over from the 2A Evergreen. They have Tenino's old coaching staff, and they were much improved the last couple years. So I'm not sure how to expect the league to shake out, but Monty could run the league and then lose 2 games out of league and finish the season 8-2. Or wait, is that how many games there are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 7-2.
7-2. 8-2 would be wild.
And go into a crossover, and finish that part of the postseason, qualify for the state tournament as a 2-loss team, and still be really good. So it's going to be it's going to be a challenging season for them. And the other teams like Elma and Hoquiam, it's more like, hey, we got to build back. Like they haven't had a ton of success for a little while. And I'm talking about like a real little while, because Hoquiam, you don't have to go back to like 2019. Hoquiam was pretty good, but it's been a few years since those teams have really had much success, and they're in build back mode. Monty is in reload mode and try to make sure that they can stay at the level that they've been for the last several years. So
every time someone says Monty's reloading, I flash back to when Ian Cope said that about the state championship team.
Rebuilding.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a reloading year.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of just some very general thoughts on what's going on. I think,
to be fair to him, they didn't look great at the beginning of that season.
Yeah.
I think that was after
2, I think.
Yep.
And with Nolan Hoynes from Hoquiam breaking the school rushing record at Roddle Field and making them look terrible.
And literally burning down the stadium.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And they didn't look good.
That's not an accusation. That is not an accusation of him. That was the stadium burned down after he did that.
Yeah.
Just to be perfectly clear.
That was a great That was a great Hoquiam team. Great Hoquiam team.
Yeah, it was.
That was like a potential. Well, they beat the team that went on to win the state title.
Yeah.
So I was about to call them like a potential state title winner. They literally beat the team that went on to win the state title.
They were literally better.
Yeah.
Transitive Property, they were better than the state title team.
And they were not a little bit better than Monty on that night.
No.
They were a lot better than Monty on that night.
Yeah.
So
anyway, sorry for the sidetrack. I every time reloading or rebuilding the high school Monty team, I go back to that conversation after that game where Daniel and Ian were talking about how this was a rebuilding year for Monty. They were replacing some big guys.
That state title game, by the way, when Monty beat Royal, one of, if not the most fun thing I've ever done and got paid for doing in my entire life. Because Daniel and Ian did the radio broadcast and they did all the heavy lifting.
Yes.
And they gave me a wireless microphone and I just got to walk up and down the sidelines, and then like twice a quarter they would throw it down to me and I'd talk for like 15 seconds. That's all I had to do the whole game. And I got to watch all the best angles from the sideline. One of the touchdown passes that Matthew Jensen threw, I think it was to Ben Ohashi, I was standing on the sideline in the trajectory of the ball. So if it had not been caught, it would have hit me. That's how close I was to the action. It was awesome.
I just now realized I'm not sure if I've ever listened to the radio call of that game. I was watching it on whatever stream was available.
Mm-hmm. That was a crazy game. It was super crazy.
It really was.
Not only was there like the somewhat depends on who you ask, Hail Mary throw that Monty got the touchdown right before halftime. There was also a goal line play that it really looked like Royal had stuffed Monty on a 4th and goal, and they gave him a touchdown. Yeah. But I was standing on the goal line looking down the goal line, and I couldn't tell. It was just a cluster of guys, and I know the ball had charged in there, but I had no idea, so I didn't envy those people making that call.
Yeah.
But there was so much crazy nuts stuff that happened in that game. It was really cool. I could actually talk about that all day, but I think we should probably move on.
We should probably do a separate episode for that sometime.
So let's go for our players to watch for the Spivey Athlete of the Week. I'll pick 3 from Monty, 3 from Elma, and then we'll put them all in a graphic together.
That sounds good.
So from Elma, we'll go Isaac.
Spivey Athlete of Players to Watch Athletes of the Week.
Exactly. That's a mouthful. From Elma, we'll go Isaac McGaffey, Ethan Camus, Traden Carter. And from Monty, this hurts a little bit because I got to leave one guy out that I really love. But from Monty, we'll go Mason Rasmussen, Gabe Pahala, and Torrin Kreitz. So congratulations to the 6 of you. You are our Spivey Athletes to watch of the Players of the Week to watch of the week. Did I get that?
I don't think so.
I think I pretty much nailed it. Anyway, we do have more to talk about. We're going to do some Mariners ranting. We've got 2-minute drill. And we've got a stand-in for Daniel, so I'm going to do Stump Andrew. But first, let's take a quick commercial break.
Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech-enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple: get a group of strong-willed, hard-working people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small town real estate.
And welcome back to the Scrimmage. I'm Justin Damashevitz.
That was a great ad read by Daniel the Bear.
It was so good. Daniel, you guys couldn't see this, but because there was a graphic up, but Daniel, who's been turned into a plush teddy bear with a Cougs coat on, just came alive and started talking into the microphone, did the ad read, and then as soon as the image went away, he just shrunk back down into his nonverbal plushy self. So I think let's what do we have next here, Andrew?
The 2-minute drill?
Okay, let's drill it up.
Let's go, huddle up! Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to ref. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye on 1.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Las Vegas Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce has named Gardner Minshew the team's starting quarterback to open the season. Andrew, are we Raiders fans now?
Just win, baby. Yes, we've always been members of Raiders Nation.
Not me, I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
Justin, the Seattle Seahawks lost to the Tennessee Titans 16-15 in preseason action on Saturday. Justin, did anything important happen in that game?
I mean, probably not really for anybody who's going to have a significant impact on the roster. There's like a lot of third and fourth string guys out there. But I will say this, Sam Howell looked really good. I think Gino's the guy, and I'm not trying to say that there's any kind of quarterback controversy, but I think as a Seahawks fan, you have to feel good after watching what Sam Howell did out there in that game. Looked really comfortable stepping up in the pocket, avoiding pressure. And the touchdown pass he threw to Aesop Winston Jr., Coug, by the way, Washington State Cougar, Aesop Winston Jr., was an absolute dime. Dropped it right in his lap on a lob. And I would also say Kenny McIntosh running the ball out of the backfield looked really good. I don't think he's going to be the starter, but I think he has got a good chance to make the roster. And I think one thing we know is that if you're a Seahawks running back who makes the roster, you're probably going to touch the ball at some point during the season. Andrew, do the Mariners stink and do you hate them?
No, the Mariners are awesome and I love them. Justin, do the Mariners stink and you hate them?
Yes, the Mariners stink and I hate them because
they won today.
They exploded for 10 runs on 13 hits just when I was peak angry with them because they can't win a game. They suck. They suck.
Justin, they're awesome and I love them because they won today.
They suck.
It is incredibly frustrating.
Scott Service should be fired.
I don't think that will help anything.
I would actually like you to expand on your thoughts on that a little bit because this popped up in one of our group chats today, that it's not even really so much I think that people think Scott Service is doing a bad job and he should be fired. It's more like he's not going to survive this kind of a vibe.
Well, that's fair. And that's so for me this comes down to like what do I think should happen and what do I think will happen. I try not to focus on the will happen because I'm bad at predicting other people. I don't think that the people who are I'm not talking about people that are saying like Scott isn't going to survive this because they're right. If they keep looking as bad as they looked for the last few games, Scott Service won't survive it, and probably Jerry DiPoto won't survive it either. But setting that aside, there's the people who want Scott Service fired because they disagree with the way that he manages games. I think that Scott Service being fired will be a huge disappointment to them because I don't think Scott Service is the person who decides the philosophy behind how he manages games. Mm-hmm. I do think he agrees with it. Like, I'm not saying he's, like, against it, but he's not the one that is making that decision. And whoever they have step in, as long as it is this current organization, whoever is managing the Mariners will have the exact same data sheets telling them the exact same thing, like, in this situation, we're going to pinch hit this guy because his splits are better against this handedness. Even if you think it's insane, that's what they're going to do still.
Because people do think that Scott Service is obsessed with handedness.
And it's not him. I guarantee you it's not him. I have listened to so many interviews with Jerry DiPoto on the Brock and Salk show, and I guarantee you it's not that Service is like, ooh, I think this is really important. The entire organization is they get guys based on that. They plan their platoons based on that, and they make their game management decisions based on that.
Yeah.
And by that I don't just mean handedness. I mean the whatever metrics they believe are important, That's how they make their decisions. They do not go, it just felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah, the days
They
of managing
straight
by
up
your gut
don't.
are pretty much over, right?
I think so. I think that's not. I don't watch baseball closely enough to say blanket, this is the way it is. But my impression from the way Jeff Passan talks about the rest of the league is there are no organizations out there that are just flying by the seat of their pants. They're all, to some degree, making decisions based on the numbers.
Which is kind of disappointing.
It takes a lot of the fun insanity out of the game.
Yeah,
For
it makes
sure.
everything more predictable.
Yes, absolutely.
See, because it used to be like, I remember as a kid and a teen watching baseball, and the commentators would always be like, I think that they're going to do this in this scenario, and they would usually be right, because when you watch the game a lot and you know the game really well, and you know the decision makers really well, then you could more easily predict what their move was going to be. But yeah, there was a lot of managers managing by their gut back then, and what their feeling was, and I think we're just not really seeing that anymore. Like you were describing the data sheets, I feel like I've heard basically the same thing from people. Anyone who talks about it on the inside is like, we have a meeting before the game, and we have all these sheets, and we have people whose job is to analyze everything. And we know in virtually every scenario, we know statistically what the right move to make is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes to like the bullpen as well. Before the game, every single possible bullpen pitcher knows who they will probably be pitching against.
Yeah.
Like in the situation, they're like, I need a bullpen arm. These are the people coming up. That's going to be this guy.
And in a way, it's almost like when you hear people talk about it who know, they're
and
like,
it's
well,
really
yeah,
frustrating when
it
you're
didn't
like,
work this time,
that
but
guy's been terrible this week.
yeah.
But they still do it.
Well, which is an interesting wrinkle to it, because like when you hear people talk about it, like, oh well, that decision didn't work out, but they were just playing the numbers. Like it's almost like it's an excuse. So if it doesn't work out, but you did it what the statistical probability told you, then you're fine.
Yeah.
But what was the thing that you just said that I said that adds an extra wrinkle to it? I totally forgot already, and it was like 4 seconds ago. Oh yeah, he was terrible this week. Thank you, Hannah. That's one thing where like if Daniel were not a mute plush bear right now,
very adorable.
He would say things like, "Not taking that into consideration
is
pants on head crazy."
It's yes, that's probably right. Yeah.
And like the other thing that Daniel would bring up if he was not a mute plush teddy bear right now is that sometimes when you're playing against the top level of competition, like if you're playing against a team that literally is better than you and also is playing statistical probability, if everything plays out the way the statistical probability tells you, you'll never have a chance to win.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're going to have to do things differently in order to like make a strategic move that would combat that disadvantage. So anyway,
I don't know if he'd put it that well.
He would yell more, but he would make his point.
That's a really interesting point that I actually hadn't thought of. Like, part of why it's frustrating as a fan is because
Daniel's in the chat right now.
Oh dear. Part of why it's frustrating as a fan is because it makes it feel less like it makes it feel more like dice rolls.
Yeah.
Like if you're just playing the probability every time, why don't we just predict the season in MLB The Show and then celebrate?
Yeah. Yeah, or
like
if you manage to roll a 16, then you get the 10-point power swerve and you take out the goblins, right?
I don't know what we're talking about.
You said it was a dice roll.
You got really nerdy.
Yeah, I went to like D&D.
with zero experience.
What do you mean? Are you telling me a 10-point power swerve isn't a real thing?
You roll like a natural 20. Yeah, that happens.
I feel
sometimes.
like you saying a natural 20 makes you seem nerdy, and I don't even know if it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's A natural 20 is when you actually roll 20 on the 20-sided dice instead of scoring 20 because of your modifiers.
Oh, the modifiers.
Yeah.
I forgot about those.
Like you got, fancy magic swords and stuff that add to your dice roll.
Fagic swords.
Magic swords.
That's borderline. Doesn't sound
Yeah,
good.
that doesn't sound good.
Well, let's move on then to
okay.
my favorite part of the show.
No.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Andrew.
This edition of Stump Daniel, which is a modified version, not a natural version, because of the modifiers.
Right.
It's going to be Stump Andrew, but it's brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz, no relation. And Andrew, what I would like to know is if I give you a name, if you can tell me, is this someone who participated in yesterday's Seahawks preseason game, or is it one of Taylor Swift's backup dancers? I'm going to give you a name. You tell me, did this person participate for your Seattle Seahawks in a preseason game yesterday?
Daniel wants to be stumped in the chat.
Okay, Daniel, you can throw your answers in the chat, but no Googling. Okay, your first one. Kobe Lewis. Kobe Lewis, is that a Seahawk or a Taylor Swift backup dancer?
I don't recognize the name. I'm gonna be honest up front so that guessing doesn't make me look worse or better than I should. I don't recognize that name. I'm gonna guess that Kobe Lewis is a Seahawk.
Kobe Lewis carried the ball 4 times for -1 yards yesterday. He is a Seattle Seahawk for now.
Right
at least.
on.
Yeah. Here's another one. Blake Lynch. Blake Lynch.
Oh, Daniel guessed dancer.
Eh.
Hold on. I'm sorry. There you go. For Daniel in the chat. What was the name? Sorry.
Blake Lynch.
Blake Lynch is a dancer. I also don't recognize that name.
Ooh, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Blake Lynch recorded 4 tackles for the Seahawks.
Oh wait, I'm
yesterday.
supposed to use the Debbie Downer, not the buzzer. Sorry.
That's okay.
What he is a Seahawk?
Yeah, he played.
Daniel also guessed dancer.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what's happening. There we go.
Blake Lynch is a linebacker who recorded 4 tackles for the Seahawks yesterday.
Oh, I am sorry, Blake. Your name sounds kind of like a dancer.
Sam McWilliams.
Sam McWilliams?
Yeah. Is that a Seahawk or a Taylor Swift backup dancer?
It just occurred to me that it's entirely possible and like it would be true to your character if there were no dancers.
So true.
But I really want to guess dancer. What was
Sam McWilliams.
Sam McWilliams is a dancer.
Did Daniel put his guess in yet? I don't want him to be cheating.
No, he guessed dancer twice in a row, though.
Okay. Sam McWilliams is a Taylor Swift backup dancer. Good job, Andrew.
In your face, Daniel! In your face!
Daniel just
He
guessed
guessed-
Seahawk. He's 0 for 3. Daniel's 0 for 3. Andrew's 2 for 3. Let's see. Mario Kendricks. Mario Kendricks.
I pray that Mario Kendricks is a backup dancer.
Mario Kendricks is a Seattle Seahawks
Oh my
defensive
gosh.
tackle.
Named Mario?
Yeah, Mario Kendricks. He recorded
Mario's go down pipes.
1 tackle. 1 tackle for the Seahawks yesterday.
Okay.
Andrew, you are 2 for 4. I'm going to say... So for you, the highest zone is the Coug zone.
Obviously.
Second highest zone, we'd probably go Beaver, because you don't like the Huskies or the Ducks.
No.
But you hate Ducks more than Huskies, right? Or do you hate Huskies more? I know you hate them both a lot.
It's very difficult for me to put either way. If they're playing each other, I genuinely root for the earthquake.
Yeah, Daniel's really bad. He's 0 for 4. Like, he's on the precipice of the duck zone, and this is your last chance.
I would say I probably do dislike the Ducks more than the Huskies,
Okay.
although the role that the Huskies administration has played in the breakup of the Pac-12 has really brought, like, it's been bad.
Yeah, agreed. Well,
Anyways,
you so far.
Daniel is like the Mariners' offense.
I was gonna say he said he's 0 for 4. I was gonna say that's
before today.
if it was 0 for 4 with 3 Ks, I'd say that was more like Julio.
Oh no! Why you gotta make us sad?
But I got one more for you, and I'll say Daniel. He's gonna be in the duck zone unless he gets this right. He can get to Husky zone. Duck zone's worse for him. Andrew, you can't get Coug zone, I don't think, because you only got even if you get it right, you're only 3 for 5. But I'd say you could have Beaver zone, which some would argue is the best of all zones.
No one in their right mind would argue that.
If you miss it, we'll go Husky zone for you. But here's the last one. Raphael Thomas. Raphael Thomas
is a Seahawk.
I'm gonna
I do
wait.
not recognize any of these names. For the record, none of these names have I been like, oh, I recognize. I watched that game for the first 3 quarters of that game yesterday, it was on my television, and I was sitting on the couch in front of the television.
Yeah.
I do not recognize any of these names, which I'm not super proud of, but...
Well, at some point...
Daniel says dancer, mostly to be different from me, I think.
Okay. Well, Daniel's right. Raphael Thomas is the Taylor Swift backup dancer, which means Daniel goes 1 for 4, which is also kind of like Julio if he had 3 strikeouts. But Daniel avoids the duck zone. You both end up in the Husky zone.
Oh,
Congratulations to both of you Huskies.
Is there a fate worse?
Duck zone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to conclude
It's not
Stump
been a good
Daniel.
day.
That's going to conclude Stump Daniel for today. Whew, that was tough. Daniel said
I feel icky.
Daniel said he was in the mountains, but I'm looking at him right in front of me right now. He got turned into a plush teddy bear with a Coug jacket. And, oh yeah, Daniel was 1 for 5. 1 for 5 with 3 Ks. That's a Julio
1
game.
for 5 was in the same zone as whatever I ended up with, which was more than 1 for 5?
Yeah.
Wow.
You were 2 for
The
5.
Husky zone is way too big.
You were 2 for 5. You were 2 for 5. So,
Feels like it should bump me up to a better zone. Daniel's in the he posted this earlier. He pointed out earlier that it was the previous administration because the Huskies administration and coaching destroyed the Pac-12 and then freaking left.
yeah. How does that? So, Andrew, you're a Coug.
Yeah,
So, how does the schedule work this year?
we're playing Mountain West teams.
Okay.
We are the Huskies and oh dear Lord.
Woohoo!
Hey, I got confused because you put me in the Husky zone, which is very difficult for my brain to process.
Andrew, you're not an easy fluster.
The
That was
Cougars.
That was one of the most upset faces I've ever seen you make. Was when you accidentally said Husky when you meant Cougar.
The Cougars and the Beavers are playing as if they are members of the Mountain West football for the football scheduling. Mm-hmm. Going forward, I believe it is still up in the air.
Okay.
They the two colleges own the Pac-12 now.
Okay.
They own all of they're in charge of it. They own the what's left of the network.
So they
They'll
could
be
still
presumably
conceivably try to
selling
build
that
it
off
out.
and stuff. I kind of expect them to rebuild a Pac-12 or a PAC conference and probably change the name. But I kind of expect them to do that because it feels to me like you're gonna there's more value in the better teams from the Mountain West going to a Pacific Conference that's called the PAC something, just from it seems to me like they have something to offer there.
Yeah.
As opposed to just joining and completely dissolving the pack. But I don't like. I believe that is all up in the air at this point.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I didn't know if it was going to be like the entire conference schedule. Do the Cougars and Beavers just play against each other?
That would be awesome.
That would be really. I actually would almost root for that to be a thing, because
But
isn't
no,
that also
they're playing
like
the pack? They're both playing the Mountain West.
haven't they been like they're two very dedicated fan bases, but they're very cool to each other.
Yeah, broadly speaking, yes.
So what do you mean?
There is some rivalry between them, but it is a mutual, like we're fighting each other to be the best, but we both hate the Ducks and the Huskies more. Like, so there's that like unifying factor. It's a far more friendly rivalry, I guess I would say.
Little brother versus little brher kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
both understand
probably.
what
Screw
the other
you. I
person's
don't
going
like it.
through. Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll conclude our Pac-2 football talk. Also, college football season starts really soon.
Yeah, it does.
Is next? I think next weekend is week 0. I think.
Gosh,
where
I've
there's
been-
like 5 games, and then after that, it's in full swing. The NFL season starts like the Thursday after Labor Day. It's crazy. Football season really snuck up on me, man. Really snuck up on me.
I've been working nights for the majority of the last month, and I swear I went from middle of July to now, and nothing happened. Like, it happened literally between blinks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going, crap, stuff I needed to do 3 months ago hasn't been done yet. What's happening?
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you, man. Like, adulting is hard
I
enough,
don't
and then when your
appreciate
schedule
time
gets
speeding up.
turned upside down because
Yeah.
of having all your nights gone, and then also half your days gone because you got to sleep sometime.
Yep.
Tough. Anyway, I think we are going to wrap up the show with a little bit of mailbag, but before we do that, let's take our next commercial break.
Oh, no.
What's wrong?
I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
It's an L for me. Our next commercial break. Nope.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Domashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Domashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit domashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
The mailbag.
Yes,
Send
the
us your
mailbag.
stuff. Send us your stuff in a mailbag.
Mailbag time, and this is going to be the way we close the show today. It's been a fun show. We didn't have Daniel here.
It was a much better show before you put me in the Husky zone.
I think that it was about the same. About the same. You got a producer in the Husky zone.
Significantly worse.
The name of this episode will be Producer in the Husky Zone.
Oh no!
And I think that will be a very good.
I completely failed Minshew. He got himself named. He earned the starting role for the Raiders, and I just freaking got myself put into the Husky zone.
Dude, I love Gardner Minshew's career arc. Like, the way that he approached everything
Yes.
was so perfect because he knew he was coming into the league as not the best guy, right? Like all these professional athletes have to have like general insane level of confidence.
Yeah.
So just to get there, right? So they all think they're the man pretty much no matter what. And so when you see guys who are like, they get there and they're not as good as everyone else, it's impossible for them to admit they're not as good. Minshew came into the league and basically over his first handful of years put up the same stats as Trevor Lawrence, but didn't win because he was on crappy teams. And you know, like, there are things like, I get it, he doesn't have plus arm strength and he can't throw the deep outs and like and he fumbles a lot. Like, there is stuff like that.
Possibly because he's tackled in the backfield a lot.
But he's been good though. Like, he's been
Yeah.
good. Like, good enough that teams will want to keep having him on a roster. And then on top
This
of
is
that,
a guy who had internally accepted coaching at Alabama in his senior year.
And then he went
That
on,
is incredible to me.
and then he went on to do what at Wazoo?
Win.
Have like one of the greatest quarterback seasons we've
Yes.
seen, and the most
Yes.
entertaining quarterback season we've ever seen. So, that helps propel him into being like a 6th or 7th round pick or whatever he was. Like, he gets into the league. Then he gets into the league, he ends up getting to play. And he plays okay. Like, he plays well. He plays well enough that he proves that he belongs there. And then, even when, probably partly because he's a late round pick, maybe because they see some physical deficiencies, but the teams have decided, you're not our guy. We're not going to make you a franchise guy. He full on accepts and embraces, like, hey, I just want to be here. I'll be a backup quarterback. I'll be the best. I'll be the most valuable locker room guy you have. Everyone will love me, and I'll be the backup quarterback, and it's fine. So he hangs around. And then in the offseason, he signed this deal as like 2 years, $25 million or something like that, I think. And so he's not getting the $50 million a year that all the franchise quarterbacks are, but he's making a crap load of money, and then he ends up earning his way back into a starting spot anyway. I think it's so cool. Like, the guy's just hanging around and making tens of millions of dollars, even though the amount of people that believe he's a future franchise quarterback can be probably counted on one hand. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
What happened?
Oh, Daniel says my brother says he thinks the Goblins could win it all this year.
Not with the 10-point power swerve.
And
Not if I roll a natural 16.
And Francis is just finally showing up in chat to prove that he's just awful.
What did he say?
Just terrible.
What did he say?
It's not important.
Isn't it?
His football fandom, number 1 Notre Dame, number 2 Alabama, number 3 Michigan, number 4 Oregon, number 5 Oklahoma State. I'm reasonably certain that Oklahoma State is only there because it's the other red and black OSU or orange and black OSU that
100%.
Daniel hates.
100%. That's why.
Yeah.
Because Francis is like, if he's nothing else, if not one, it's two things. He's a front runner and he's a troll. That's like, if I had to describe Francis in 2 words, front runner, right. Troll. Absolutely. And, like, Francis's trolls, are they going to beat Daniel's Goblins? I don't know. Not if they have the 10-point power swerve. So, I do think it's interesting, though.
Depends on who rolls a natural 20.
Depends on who rolls a natural 20. I think it is interesting, though, like, the way that this 12-team playoff, which is starting this year, it's crazy. Like, this is going to be one of the most interesting college football seasons in a while, I feel, because there's going to be way more teams in the mix to get into the CFP. And the way that it's structured is pretty much to get, like, the 3 or 4 best teams from the Big Ten and the SEC and Notre Dame. And then you're going to get, like, 3 others. Mm-hmm. So you'll have one ACC team, the ACC champ, the Big 12 champ, and then, like, 4 SEC teams, 3 Big Ten teams. Notre Dame as
probably
an independent.
the Mountain West champ.
Maybe, but they'll have to be in as an at-large bid.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame, the way that this thing is structured, Notre Dame as an independent, like, basically all they have to do is lose no more than 2 games. They're going to end up in the college football playoff too. They're basically going to be in it every year.
Gosh.
So all the talk about how Notre Dame was going to be left behind if they don't join a conference, and they shouldn't disrespect the conference system.
What if Notre Dame joined the PAC conference?
Ooh, would they be rejected?
Probably.
They really should. They should join either the ACC or the Big Ten because, like, geographically,
all coast conference. They're not even on the coast.
Well, geographically, it makes a lot of sense for them to be in the Big Ten, even though they're all over the place now too. But, like, Notre Dame's been playing an ACC schedule in every sport except football. They're in the ACC for basketball. They're just not. They're just independent for football. So it seems like it would make the most sense for them to join the ACC.
Except that they're probably making more money being independent.
They
not
definitely
having to
are.
Share. Yeah.
Yeah, and the ACC has a terrible TV contract.
Oh.
They signed with ESPN as like a 25-year deal. It has like
so they
15
did, like,
more years on it.
opposite of what the Pac-12 did, where the Pac-12 refused to sign a good deal and wanted to do it all themselves. The ACC signed a bad deal.
So they have a network, but it's part of ESPN, and they signed with ESPN, and instead of banking on the fact that, hey, short term we can do this, and then 3 or 4 years down the road we can negotiate a new contract with much bigger money because money's getting bigger.
Right.
They wanted security, so instead they signed like a 25-year contract with ESPN that now teams are literally trying to sue to get out of because their contract is so much worse than the other conferences. So I understand why it wouldn't be appealing from a monetary standpoint for Notre Dame to join the ACC when they're making so much more money as an independent. But at some point in like the grand restructure of college football, like we're headed towards there being some kind of a CFP league, right? Andrew, don't you think?
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Oh, Caitlin Clark just broke the rookie record for
Assists.
in a beating down the Seattle Storm. The
Oh.
laughter was like, of course you do it against Seattle's team.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, so Andrew, don't you think, I mean, this is what I feel like people talk in general, we're trending towards there being like a separate league for like 60 teams or so, maybe less?
Yes. It feels strongly like the long-term trend, and I don't mean like 20, but like it feels like in the next 5-6 years there's going to be a separation between professional college athletic or professional college football and non-professional. That's what it feels like to me.
So your brother Daniel says the Trolls have a lot going for them. They have the largest size average of any team.
They're big boys.
Are Trolls big?
Yeah.
Oh. Why am I picturing Trolls as like a little,
You're
like a
thinking
tiny little thing?
goblins.
No, I think...
We'll go over this later.
Well,
Justin fell asleep in the first 5 minutes of Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
he has no idea what a troll is.
This is a Tolkien thing? You know why? You know what it is? It's the children's movies.
Oh, you're thinking like the little troll toys.
Yeah, well, yeah, but even more than that, the troll movies where they're like Smurf size.
Got
They're
you.
tiny.
Got you. No, that's
But
not.
goblins.
That's not what a troll is.
I know how big goblins are because of Clash Royale. It's a mobile Clash of Clans game. They're tiny. So there's that.
Does the Clash of Clans game have a big rock race?
No.
Like big rock guys?
No.
That's the trolls.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought. Okay, so a giant.
Trolls are made of rock.
Really?
Yes.
Is that just a Tolkien thing, or is that like across different?
I mean, generally speaking, Tolkien didn't make it up.
Okay. Like the trolls that live under a bridge.
Yes, they
in
turn
fairy tales.
Yeah, they're huge. They turn to rock if they get in the sunshine.
Okay. This is a thing I'm learning. These are things I didn't know. And yes, I did fall asleep the first time I tried to watch Lord of the Rings. I also fell asleep the second time I tried to watch Lord of the Rings. Because I hate to break it to you, but it's boring.
Cate Blanchett has a very soothing voice.
I don't even know who that is.
Who does the voiceover of the beginning of the movie?
Okay. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about the movie and I'm already like nodding off. I got to drive soon, so I probably shouldn't think about Lord of the Rings anymore. I'm going to fall asleep
It's
on my way
okay.
home.
You can nap at our place until you're ready to drive.
I'll just lay on Pax's bed. He'd be fine with it.
He would love that.
We'll do one question from the mailbag.
We're not doing the mailbag, right?
Yeah. Well, we were already kind of doing it. This question came from Heidi. The question is, how should student athletes evaluate colleges and teams to make the decision about where to play? I love this question.
Is this something that you possibly have considered in your own life recently?
As a person who just went through the recruiting process with my own child, also we are seeing just an absolute explosion of local athletes from Grace Harbor County and Pacific County who are moving on and committing to play college sports. I feel like it used to be a much more rare thing. And now there's like dozens of them every year from all the different schools. They're having like signing day announcements. Like the schools are even organizing, hey, everybody who's signing to play sports somewhere, come here. We'll do a little ceremony together. And I think the landscape of the way these kind of things works has changed a lot. And then also this the question of how they should evaluate which schools to go to, it varies so much person to person, because there's several different mindsets. Like, you could be like my son, who says, I know what I want to do. I would like to continue playing sports if I can. He loves football. So his whole philosophy was, he knows he's not a Division I athlete. Like, he played linebacker and offensive line, and he weighs 190 or so pounds. Like, he's not going to go play linebacker in Division I football.
He could be a great center, though.
At 190 pounds, probably not.
I bet he could.
But he wanted, like, there's so many opportunities for these smaller schools where you can get scholarships. If you do Division II or NAIA, you can get direct athletic scholarships. If you're going to a Division III school, they can't offer athletic scholarships specifically, but the schools have different ways they can direct you to different grants and scholarships, and early decision, which is what my son did, that saves you a lot of money. So, like, if you're of the mindset that I know what I want to do with my life, I know what I want to do for a career, or I know what kind of degree I want to get, then you should totally base your decision on what school gets you there.
Yeah.
And what way you can do it least expensive, so you don't have a ton of student loan debt hanging over your head when you're done. Some kids want to, they might be in the mode where I think this is kind of where Skylar Bovey, my son's friend, is, where he's like, I would really like to try to play as high level of baseball as I can. So his thought was, I mean, I can use baseball to help me get an education. He's going to a community college, Big Bend, which is kind of a pipeline community college. And his thought was, if I go play really well there for a couple years, I'll be getting the education, but then I can also use that to springboard me into something bigger. Maybe I can get on the radar of a Division I or Division II school, and I can go play college baseball further. Or I can, take a shot. If I can get on the radar of some scouts, I can take a shot in the minor leagues or something like that. Like, his mindset is, I'm going to use baseball to get me an education, but I want to go as far as possible. I want to play the highest level of baseball I possibly can. And then you have other kids. I won't mention anybody by name, but I know some other kids that are in my son's age group where they don't really know what they want to do with their life. So they don't know what they want to do for a career, but they know that they'd like to continue playing sports, and they know they'd like to go to college. So for those kids, it's so much more about, like, what's a college I would like to go to? What's a place I would enjoy playing? And can balance that out by making it as inexpensive as possible.
Yeah, because I don't have a ton of advice for college athletes, but I do have this. If you don't know what you want to do with your life, if you're like, I'm still trying to figure out what I really want to do with my life, don't go into debt for college.
Yeah.
Go to college if you can for free. Or if you can work a part-time job and make make that and your grants or scholarships make it, but don't go into debt for college until you know what you want to do. For sure. You're like, yeah, this is my dream.
Your brother says, obviously the choice is dictated by where the cutest girls are.
Not everybody can go to WSU, Daniel.
But I do think, actually, Andrew, that was a really good point that you made, and it goes right along with what I was saying too. Was like, if you think, okay, I want to go to college and I want to get a degree, maybe I'll go into business, maybe I'll go find some kind of office job where I can get my foot in the door and work my way up. The last thing you want while you're getting your foot in the door somewhere, or while you're trying to start a business, is a bunch of debt hanging over your head.
Yes.
So going into debt to get a college degree that may or may not even benefit you in the future.
And unless you're going to one of the unless you're going to Harvard or unless the college name is more valuable than the degree, then you want to get it as cheaply as possible.
Like if you're going to a really prestigious school like the University of Washington.
I don't think that, and I'm not even hating on UW. I think there's like probably there's a handful of universities where it's like, well, if you can get in there, just having gone to that school is so valuable that it doesn't matter.
Like the Ivy League schools and Stanford
And Northwestern. Or is
Northwestern.
Northwestern
No, they're like Big 10.
Ivy League? I don't know.
Big 10 or Big 12.
If you go to Northwestern, you automatically get a job in mainstream media. I
Yeah,
think.
that's true. They have a network. Yeah,
So that's if that one exception. If it's how much you pay for it is the most important thing.
yeah.
As far as nobody in your professional life is going to care which school you went to unless it's one of those elite schools.
I mean, I can tell you, I worked in management at a Fortune 500 company for 8 years. And
I am so sorry.
The question when it came to promotions was never, where did you get a college degree? It was just whether you have one or not. Like, they don't care if your college degree came from USC or Meatloaf State. Like, they want to know you have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college.
Yep.
And if you do, they're happy with it. They don't care where it came from for the most part because it's just them checking off a box.
In your case, they didn't care what it was either, did they?
No, I mean, boy, that's a whole long.
Yeah.
That's a story for another day.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it worked out okay.
Yep, it did.
In the end. So, but yeah, I think if you have a destination, if you know what you want and you know what you want to do, figure out what's the least expensive way to get where you want to go. If you really want to play sports and you want to get as far as you can in your sport and you're ready to make the sacrifices and work your tail off the way that people who reach the highest mountaintops of sport can, then yeah, absolutely. Find one of those pipeline schools, find you a place that has a reputation for, getting you to the next level of where you want to go. Mm-hmm. It's very rare for Grays Harbor size schools to have athletes who jump straight to Division I. I get really Joel DeBlanco, that's the anomaly. Like,
yeah.
He went to Cincinnati, he went to a Division I school, but there are hundreds of examples of kids who are really, really, really good athletes that don't get to go to Division I, So,
yeah.
Find that, go pursue your passion. And then if the name of the game is, I want to get a college education, but I don't know what I want to do after that, by all means, go somewhere where you can play and you can enjoy your time in college, but really focus on trying to keep the cost as low as possible and, hopefully come out of college with no student debt.
Yep.
Boy, that was heavy. We talked about real serious stuff there. But I think that's probably going to do it for our show today. So I'll just say goodbye on behalf of my co-host, Daniel, the plush teddy bear with a Coug jacket Hargrove, and my trusty producer, Andrew, in the Husky zone, Gross.
Oh, no. Justin, I don't have one for you.
It's hard. You got to be like, how many times we get to the end of the show and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a nickname for Daniel. And the thing is, like, with the nickname, I want to hurt him. Like, sometimes I want to make him laugh, but usually with the nickname, I want to hurt his feelings.
It worked. You hurt me.
All right. Well, that'll do it for our show today.
Justin, I just want to hurt him. Domashevitz.
I like it. You've been listening to The Scrimmage.